Hello everybody. For this class the topic is about superlative and comparative adjective. In the drive, the first document is about the adjective. The adjective is very important for you because you have identified different adjectives in this topic. And the next document called class superlative and comparative contextualization activity, you have activity about the read the text and identify different adjectives and answer the question. Okay, for the next step, when you finish the activity about the read, the read is about my best friend, and you learn about the superlative and comparative. Okay, babies, what is the comparative and what is the superlative? Okay, children often make comparison than to which they can identify their favorite toys, chores, or even place. Yeah, for these comparatives and superlative are often used, which serve to establish contrast and organize the things with which children interact on a daily basis. These types of the word facilitate communication because they establish differences or similitudes between certain groups of objects, people, or animals, providing more information about them. However, comparative and superlative adjectives in English have different use and are formed in different ways. What are comparatives? It's very important that you understand what are comparatives. Comparative adjectives in English are used to compare characteristics and qualities between objects, people, or animals. You can compare size, colors, height, and speed. For example, the red pencil is bigger than the blue pencil. In this example, you compare it for two colors, for two pencils. And the adjective used is a bigger. The next step is what are superlative. Superlative adjective in English express a quality to its maximum degree. They are also known as comparative of excellence. The superlative is the maximum degree. Okay? When comparing, for example, size, the superlative is used to speak of the smallest, and the comparative is smaller, and the superlative is smallest. Okay? When speaking of a set a box in Kansai, the smallest box is mini, the other two are of charity. The smallest box is mini, the other two are to donate. Is an example for the superlative adjectives. Okay, how are comparative and superlative used? Comparative and superlative adjectives in English are used when making comparison between two things or groups of things or groups of more than three things. These comparisons are used to establish difference between characteristics shared by objects. To use both the comparative and superlative English sentence must follow a specific structure. The structure of the sentence with comparative in English is as follows. Now, the verb is noun or subject, plus verb, plus comparative adjective, plus than. Is important the word than for the comparative, and noun or object. Okay, for example, Brazil is subject or noun. Is a verb. Is a verb to be. And bigger is a comparative adjective. Than is the important word for identify the comparative, and spine. Spine is a noun or object. Okay. The other example is car move faster than bicycles. Okay, is for example than comparative adjectives. Okay, the word than is a conjunction that means than in Spanish and several to unit the two parts of the comparison. On the other hand, the structure of making sentence with superlative in English is noun or subject plus verb plus the plus comparative adjective plus noun. The word important for identify the superlative is the. For example, the Blue Tower is the large building in the city. Another example, Everest is the highest mountain in the planet. Okay? The rules for forming comparative and superlative in English, these are divided in two groups. It's important because you identify regular and irregular comparative or superlative according to the group to which the below they are formed in different ways. Regular comparative and superlative. To form regular comparative and superlative in English, from an adjective, attention must be paid to the number of syllables that the adjective has in English. It's very important the syllables in the word, okay? When the adjective has a syllable, in this case, the comparative is created by adding the ending "r" to the adjective, while the superlative is created by adding in the ending "ets". When the adjective have a syllable, in the comparative case, you ending "er", the word "er", and in the superlative, you ending "ets". Okay? For example, the adjective old. When old, the adjective old in comparative is older. In the superlative is oldest. Okay? If the adjective ends in letter E, then only "er" should be added for the comparative and "st" for the superlative. Adjective large in comparative is larger, in superlative is largest. Okay, when the in this case when the adjective ends in word in, you ending in comparative er and in superlative st. Okay, there is a special case for two adjectives that have only a syllable, when these are formed by contrast vowel consonant. Then the last letter should by double the front, the comparative and the superlative adjective. For example, the adjective thin in comparative is thinner, in superlative is the thinners. Okay? When the adjective has two syllables, in general case where the adjective has two syllables, the comparative is formed by ending the word more in front to the adjective, and the superlative by putting the plus mod before the adjective. For example, adjective precious in comparative is more precious, and the superlative is the most precious. Okay, it's clear? Okay, next. When the adjective has two syllables and ends in er, l, or o. In this case, there are two possible options. The first is to form the comparative and superlative use, as in the case of top single syllables adjective. So the comparative on glenter won't be glenter kinder, and the superlative would the glanters or the cleaned. And the second option is to put more before comparative or the mod for the superlatives. In this case of glanted, the adjective will be more glanted and the superlative is the most glanted. This is usually the most common option. Adjective tender. For example, in the adjective tender, comparative is the more tender or tenderer, and superlative is the most tender or tenderest. When the adjective has two syllables and ends in y, in this case you must change the y to an a, and the process add er for comparative or et for superlative. For example, in the adjective bossy, comparative bossier, superlative bossier. There are certain adjectives to do not behave like the rest when forming comparative and superlative. These are two so-called irregular adjectives in English, and they are exceptions that do not follow the rules of regular adjectives. With these irregular comparative and superlative are formed. Irregular comparative and superlative in English. When these types of adjectives are so called because they are not regular. That is, when forming comparative or an adjective, they totally change their form. Basically, they are different words. These eight planes equally to those with one, two or more syllables. Where are some of the most common irregular comparative and superlative in English? Adjective. Adjective in English comparative for this adjective is the exception for the after the last ruler. Okay, for this adjective is the from different. For example, but in comparative is worse. In the superlative is worse. For example, the other adjective far in the comparative is fatter. In the superlative is farthest. For example, the other adjective is good. In this comparative is better. In the superlative is is a bad. Sorry. Repeat. In the adjective good, the comparative is bigger and the superlative is bad. For other for other example is the word lit, or something like that. Okay, my dear student, the next activity you in the right in the document class superlative and comparative control practice, you have a link. In your cell phone or computer, you use the next link and practice the play about the superlative and comparative adjective. For this activity is play about the comparative and superlative. For example, in this example is choose the correct sentence. The play have three possible. You choose the correct answer. Okay. And for finish the class, you have a homework. The homework is about the text. When you read about a text and you answer about the question. The text is about comparative and superlative and your different use. Okay, see you next week. Bye.